One, right here.
They call this place the Magic Mile.
10-4, man. Go get him. It's going to be a long, hot, slick day. I got a lift. I'm going to hit him if he don't move.
Trouble turn 4.
Do what you got to do to win.
4 wide down the straightaway.
Carly will get some monster.
It's race day in the Northeast. Our one race in New England brings with it the magic of the mile in Loudon, New Hampshire. The weather today uncharacteristically warm, but the on-track action should be just as hot. Hello, everyone, and welcome into our Race Hub studio. I'm Kaitlyn Vincie alongside Regan Smith, Larry McReynolds, and Bobby Labonte. And guys, we're about halfway through the season. So when you look at everything that's transpired so far, what's your biggest takeaway?
Well, what I see, Kaitlyn, is the tide is turning, and I don't mean the crimson tide.
We're not here we go. 30 seconds.
I'm talking the tide of the NASCAR Cup Series season, because if you look at the first 16 races, only 6 different drivers went to victory lane, and 15 of those races was won by 2 organizations, Joe Gibbs Racing and who won the other? All the other races. So, yeah. But anyhow, if you look at our last 3 races, we've had 3 winners that had not won earlier this year. So I think as we're getting into the second half of the season, other teams are starting to get a hold of this package.
You know, you talk about other teams that are getting a hold of it, that are having good runs and stepping up perhaps. I want to know who's going to choke. There's somebody in that 16th place area. They're going to go out and they're going to choke, and they're going to have some problems at the end of the season. I want to know who that's going to be.
Yeah, you know, the intensity levels ramped up. Just last weekend's race between Kurt and Kyle Busch, I mean, that was an amazing restart, and its finish was incredible. So yeah. I think these guys are going to ramp it up. I think a lot of these guys are trying to get stage points, trying to either get in the top 16 or gain more stage points. To me, it's just all over the board as far as intensity level goes.
Yeah, but before we can look ahead, let's look back to the playoff picture following Kentucky, the playoff chaos, as we call it, that continues each and every week. Kurt Busch joined the list of winners and locks himself into the playoffs. Down at the cut line, a lot more movement there. Ryan Newman, he drops a spot to 17th, but just 2 points out right now for Newman. Eric Jones jumps up 2 spots as the last man in. Jimmy Johnson, he falls a spot behind Clint Boyer after losing 24 points to the cutoffs. Okay, so Regan, you were talking about drivers and teams choking. Okay, so when you look at that list, kind of the group right there along the cut line, who you have your eye on?
Well, I'm going to go right back to that choking point, and the fact that the 48 car last week, they had a terrible week. But I would not count on that happening again. Here's my reason for that. Jimmy Johnson is a 7-time champion. We can't fail to forget that. He has been in pressure situations unlike anybody else in this field. It's going to be nothing to him to make that top 16. I think he definitely gets in. Last week was a bit of bad luck. He's not going to choke. He's going to find his way in. I feel good about that team and where the speed of that race car is.
Yeah, but sometimes you just don't know. I mean, we would have thought that at this point in time, Jimmy Johnson would have been up there. But I look at Eric Jones. I mean, I think that he's a guy right now that's probably on a little bit of an upswing, even though he's only 2 points ahead of the cut line, but yet he's been running really good. He's had some good finishes here lately, so I look at him as being that. But at this point in time, you don't know. I don't know if it's choking or not. It's just bad luck or what could happen, and everybody's running really good at that point right now at that cutoff line.
It's a really close group. So, Larry, who do you kind of have an eye on? Who are you watching?
Well, I'm watching the same group week in and week out. It doesn't seem to matter if it's Jimmy Johnson, if it's Eric Jones, Ryan Newman, Daniel Suarez. They just keep hanging right around that cut line. They move above it.
It just won't go away.
But with 7 races to go, and that's a lot of racing. There is a lot of points that are available. But just based on points, we still have 8 spots available with 7 races to go. I think we have 10 drivers fighting for those 8 spots. I know the math doesn't show it, but I'm showing it and I'm saying it. When I look at Ricky Stenhouse Jr. on down, I think those are all drivers. They're going to have to win to make the playoffs.
First opportunity to win is today at Loudon, New Hampshire. Now, the chaos will continue as we close in on the playoffs. The next 5 weeks provide some very unique challenges for the teams. Today, the 1-mile track up in Loudon, New Hampshire. Next week, we head to the 2.5-mile track in Pocono, followed up by the road course at Watkins Glen. Both of those could produce a surprise winner. Then we head to the high-speed 2-mile racetrack in Michigan, followed by the high-banked half-mile at Bristol Motor Speedway. Oh, yes, racing under the lights at Bristol. Okay, so, Regan, when you look at that group of racetracks, which one do you think could be a difference maker?
Well, Bristol to me is the one that stands out just because we've seen different guys run good at Bristol in the past. And you mentioned Ricky Stenhouse, that he's one of those teams that has to win. Let's not think too hard about this, but Ricky has run extremely good at Bristol. He's always up front, always in the top 5, no matter where those Roush Fenway cars have been in terms of speed in the past. Ricky finds a way to run good there. It would not surprise me to see him go there, win that race. Those race cars are getting better every week at Roush Fenway. Ricky Stenhouse at Bristol is something I'm watching.
You do realize the last time we had a surprise winner at Bristol, you were pressing your leisure suit and your flowery shirt to get ready for your prom. You got to go back to Elliott Sadler in 2001. The same people win Bristol race after race after race. It's the road course, Watkins Glen. It's the most unpredictable race that we go to outside of Sonoma. Did we go there last year remotely thinking this is where Chase Elliott was going to get that first career win? I don't think so.
Is that why you asked me how old I was over there?
Maybe, yeah. Okay, so he says Bristol, Larry says Watkins Glen. Bobby, which track do you think could be a unique variable?
All of them. I don't know what you guys, what are you watching, just these 2 tracks or what? I mean, you think of Pocono. Chris Buescher won there a couple years
Thanks
ago.
to the fog.
So what?
Hey, we had lightning.
You've got that fuel mileage at Michigan.
Yeah.
What about that? You've got all kinds of variables. You got rain, you got fuel mileage, you got strategy. You never know. So I think all of them are on the table for a surprise winner.
It's going to be interesting to see it all unfold over the next couple of weeks. Okay, it is time now to head out to the garage and check in with our guy, Bob Pockris, for today's headlines, who's got the pulse on everything going on out in New Hampshire and in the NASCAR world. Hey, Bob.
Hey, Kaitlyn, how are you?
We're doing great. So we've been chatting about the next 5 races before the off week, and with just 7 to go in the regular season, what's kind of the mood? What is the vibe in the garage as these races start to dwindle down? Are the teams, are they really looking to make bigger swings on strategy when it comes to earning some of those points?
Well, Kaitlyn, I think your swing depends on your bat. If you have a car that's good enough to win the race, you'll play the strategy to win. If you have a car that might not be a race-winning car, you might play the strategy to get stage points. The key in this race is that there's only one planned green flag pit stop. With the first 2 stages at 75 laps apiece, they will be able to do those stages on a single fuel run.
And, Bob, we see those Hendrick Motorsports cars right behind you. Great day for them 3 weeks ago at Chicago on the 1.5 mile track. Last week at Kentucky, not so good. How are they feeling about today? I know they've already had a very eventful weekend out in New Hampshire.
Well, Jimmy Johnson's starting 10th. Chase Elliott is starting 12th. They might not be totally happy, but they're certainly happier than William Byron and Alex Bowman. They both wrecked they both wrecked cars during practice on Saturday. Bowman actually wrecked his backup car, so he is in a backup 48 car. They chose the 48 because it was painted and not wrapped, so all they had to do is take the stickers off and put a wrap on. Now, what about inside the car? One thing that helped him is that Alex Bowman tested a Jimmy Johnson car in 2017. That allowed him to know exactly how he wanted the steering wheel and the pedals to be adjusted for the race today.
Yeah, it has certainly been a busy weekend so far for HMS. Now, I'm sure you're hearing plenty of rumors on silly season, which seems to be picking up right about now. What are some of the storylines you have some new information on what we should be looking out for?
Well, the top storyline I keep looking at is Joe Gibbs Racing. Eric Jones continues to have talks to remain in the 20 car, and if he does stay there, then what do they do with Christopher Bell? Does he go to the 95, or does he just run a full season in Xfinity? That's still all to be determined. The other free agents are still having talks. Clint Boyer at Stewart Haas Racing, Kurt Busch at Chip Ganassi Racing. Some guys who say they're not having talks are Kyle Larson and Paul Menard, who say they have contracts through next year to stay where they're at.
Thank you, Bob. Great insight, as always, from you. And as we head to break, we do have some sad news today from the NASCAR garage. Nick Harrison, Xfinity crew chief for Justin Haley and Colleague Racing, has passed away. Nick was a friend and mentor to so many in the NASCAR garage over the years. His driver, Justin Haley, tweeted, "Not just a crew chief, but a friend to everyone who knew him. I and everyone at Colleague Racing are devastated. He will be greatly missed." Nick was 37 years old. The day. Welcome back to Race Day here on FS1. Out and loud in the teams. They're getting ready for race 20 of the year. And we checked in with 3-time New Hampshire winning crew chief Chad Knaus for this week's Crew Chief Corner.
Coming into New Hampshire this weekend, every team, driver, and crew chief is going to have their own unique agenda. The stages are very, very short, 75 laps, 75 laps, and 151 laps. That means there's a lot of opportunities, and the teams have to cater it to what it is that they need. Do they need stage points? Do they need to try to get a win? We don't always peg New Hampshire as something you have to worry about temperature and heat, but the ambient temperature is going to be extremely hot this weekend. Drivers, they have to stay hydrated. Pit crew members, you got to stay hydrated, loose, and not get fatigued throughout the course of the race. When we go out and practice, the track is typically pretty cool. It means a lot of grip, especially with the traction compound. Now, when you get out there in the race, traction compound goes away, track gets super hot, loses a lot of grip. There are going to be a lot of handling complaints at the end of this race. With only 7 races left to go before the playoffs arrive, you really have to pay attention. Some of these guys in that final stage, they may do some unique pit strategy just to try to get some points. That can be a 2-tire call, that can be a fuel mileage call. And just like we always say, at the end of these races, as soon as they get into it, a fuel mileage race is always about to break out.
Thank you, Chad. Great insight from the 7-time champion. Now it's time to head to our own resident crew chief in the Fox Tech Center with Larry, who is talking a little brakes.
Kaitlyn, at some of our shorter tracks, especially those with long straightaways and flat corners, the driver uses a ton of brake to get in the corner. These teams, they'll run as big a brake package as possible, whatever fits inside of that front steel rim right there. Now, Chad Knaus was talking about ambient temps. Let me tell you about brake temps. You see that black disc rotor right there? It can see temps up to 1,300 degrees Fahrenheit. The red caliper around 500 degrees, and that green brake pad, it can see temps up to 1,800 degrees. Now, when you're talking about those type of attempts, it comes important to get cooling to these brakes. So what NASCAR allows the teams to do, in place of those air ducts like we run at the bigger tracks, they replace them with brake ducts. There's one on the left front and the right front. And you see those 3 hoses? That's what pumps air to the brakes. NASCAR also allows them to put an inline blower that enhances the cooling to the brakes. Now, it's important to run that opening as big as possible, but Kaitlyn, crew chiefs won't do that because the more opening, it hurts the front downforce of the race car.
Thank you, Larry. Okay, so we see what's happening inside of the race car, but what about inside the driver's seat? How do you guys manage your brakes?
Well, I find it, Larry, funny that Larry says crew chiefs don't want to do that because drivers don't want to take that tape off either because it makes the cars not drive as well and turn as well. What I used to do, it started for me in practice. I was always a big fan of going out there and overusing my brakes in practice, making sure that I heated them up more than I needed to so the crew chief knew what he needed to adjust in terms of tape going into the next day. I was trying to help him out when I'd be out there in practice.
Yeah, I know for a fact Loudon, New Hampshire is really hard on brakes, can be hard on brakes. You're driving so fast in the corner, using a lot of it. And one thing about Loudon that sometimes some people touch on or not, turn 1 is a little bit more common to me. You use a lot of brake getting in, but turn 3 is a lot of bumps. Regan, you know yourself, when you get down there, it's all doing this and that, hopping around. And so when you're on the brake so hard, you always have a wheel that could lock up on you. So that could be a little trouble there.
I heard you say a word, hopping, which brings me to wheel hopping. How do you prevent that as the driver?
Wheel hop on a road course, not a big deal. You bump it in neutral, you lift off the brake pedal, do something like that. Wheel hop on an oval, a big problem. The only way you can really fix it on an oval is to put more front brake to that race car so that the back tires don't hop. On an oval, if the back tires hop, very often you're going to end up in the wall. The incident we saw right here with Denny Hamlin, that's a similar spot that wheel hop can bite you, but we believe that was actually from oil on the racetrack.
Yeah, there's a lot of different variables there. And when you get in the corner, like you said, turn 3, if you start wheel hopping, you almost can't save it.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things the drivers are having to manage from inside the driver's seat. Okay, here is what is around the turn on race day. Alan Cavana caught up with our latest winner in the Cup Series to talk about that dramatic finish and what is in store next for Kurt Busch. Speaking of that wild finish, it got us thinking about the best finishes we have ever seen in NASCAR. Plus, Joey Logano joins us from the track to talk about how he is maintaining his points lead over Kyle Busch. Race day continues next. Welcome back to Race Day here on FS1. There is the one car of last week's winner, Kurt Busch, sits waiting in the New Hampshire inspection area, possibly looking to go back-to-back today. And that victory in Kentucky was the 31st for Kurt in the Cup Series and his first driving the one car for Chip Ganassi Racing. Our Alan Cavana went one-on-one with Kurt to talk about the emotion and meaning of that win.
It's green white checkers to decide it all here in the Bluegrass State.
Kyle Busch out in front by a bumper. Now Kurt Busch battles back on the outside. It's a dead heat.
It's a family affair here in Kentucky. Kurt and Kyle get together. Kurt Busch will win.
That's how you do it, man.
Let's start back to Saturday night. I don't have a brother. I'll never understand that dynamic. Not only competing with him, but going toe-to-toe on the highest level, the biggest stage, a two-lap shootout. What is that like?
To come out on top and to beat him this time and to have such an epic finish, this was something special. I won, got to beat my little brother, and now it's sinking in with the video. It's almost like a reversal or a blast to the past of my Ricky Craven at Darlington finish. And I was second that year.
They touch! Craven got him!
It's, again, epic, historic finish. My dad, he calls me, he's like, yeah, Kyle hit you about 7 times. Two of us could have wrecked each other, and it would have been a huge brawl in the grass. But instead, it was a huge, epic finish of 2 guys laying it out on the line to get the W.
Yeah, I figure you have the championship, a ton of wins, but was it a checklist item to beat your brother for a win like that?
Absolutely. I mean, he had me 0 for 2, and so now it's 33% that I've got the win on it.
It's your first win for Chip Ganassi Racing. We know he likes winners. What was the reaction from Chip?
We made that pact to sign that contract last fall, and my promise was, I want to make you guys winners. When you make those promises and it follows through and it comes together, it's one of those special moments in time where it's like, yes, we did it together, and let's go get some more.
What gave you the confidence it could happen?
When we came out of the box and had top 5s at Atlanta and Vegas, I'm like, oh, we've got something special. And then yet we still had to make mistakes. We went from running top 5 and strong top 10s early to fell back a little bit, 12th or 13th. Took those moments to build back up. And now look at us. Matt McCall's a winning crew chief. The confidence is there. That winning car, it's sitting there with confetti, and it's like a model piece now for Ganassi. I'm sitting there thinking, no, we got to get it turned around and
a good car.
Get it back in our fleet. And I think they're going to get ready for Vegas to be our first playoff car. So that's the importance of keeping going.
You come with that reputation that you improve every team that you go to. What is it like having that reputation?
I appreciate that, but I'm just one piece of the puzzle. I get to drive the car. I get to have the most fun with going 200 miles an hour. But it takes a pit crew. It takes engineering, the guys hanging the bodies on the cars, the engine mapping and data. When I was younger, I pushed harder and more aggressive, and I was brash, yes. And now I can accept the losses, but yet learn from them. And to be more patient and more appreciative, it makes each win that much more sweeter at this point.
Preseason, you told everyone in this place, we're going to win. You believed it.
I believed it, and we made it happen.
Yes, a very big win for Kurt Busch. Big moment for him. Great job by Alan Cavanna on that interview. And Larry, it's his first win with Chip Ganassi Racing, but it seems like with Kurt Busch, no matter where he goes, what team, he always makes a positive impact.
No, Alan asked the right question. Kurt downplayed the answer. He has driven for 6 organizations. He's won now with 4 of them. He has won with 9 different crew chiefs. He understands that race car, and he said in the media center this weekend, he gives a lot of credit to his dad, Tom, for where he's at right now. He said his dad hammered on him when he first started racing. You have to understand the race car. You have to give good feedback, and honestly, that's what he does. Tom told him, said, the best crew chief on earth can't help you if you don't give him good feedback about that race car.
My favorite thing about Kurt this year, when you look at the stats, you look at the numbers, he's running almost 4 positions better at the end of these races than he was last year at Stewart-Haas Racing. That is incredible. When you really put that into context as to how good Stewart-Haas Racing is, that he's doing that at a smaller team this year.
Yeah, Regan, I look at it this way. He won his championship 15 years ago, and he's capable of winning that this year. So that is a widespread. That's a great long career. We don't think of Jimmy Johnson having been around that long. He just because he won his championships here. But I think Kurt, I love this interview, and I love the way they celebrated the win. That tells me he's a man on a mission.
Yeah, Kurt Busch locked into the playoffs. He's going to be on the hunt for a title this season. All right, Kurt got the win. Meanwhile, his teammate, Kyle Larson, that 42 team, still on a 65-race winless streak. That is also the case for another two younger guys. Eric Jones hasn't been back to victory lane since his win at Daytona over a year ago. And Daniel Suarez, who is currently outside the playoff bubble, has yet to win with his new team. Okay, so we thought we would play a little level of concern in terms of these drivers. We've got a meter right behind you that's calm, concern, panic. You know, how you guys feeling? So, Regan, we're going to start with you on driver 42, Kyle Larson.
This is an easy one. Cool. I am as ice cold as possible about Kyle Larson. He has fast race cars. His teammate just won last week, so we know those Ganassi cars can win. Kyle Larson is going to make the playoffs. I think he's going to win before the playoffs to give momentum going in as well.
Okay, so we're feeling good about Kyle Larson. Bobby, what do you think about young Eric Jones? Where's the level of concern?
I'm going to go with calm.
Okay, another calm. Right. This is a calm bunch. I like it.
All right, sure. Calm meaning that the fact that I've heard him talk about he's talking negotiations with JGR about a contract extension. That's good for him. Whether that's true or not, I have no idea. I don't have any secrets on that, so I'm not letting that out of the bag. But he's had three top 10 finishes out of the last 5 races. So I see progression and speed in their race car right now and him in the race car. So I think that's a good thing.
Okay, so far, calm. We're feeling very zen in this room. So Larry McReynolds, what do you think about Daniel Suarez?
Well, Daniel Suarez and his crew chief, Billy Scott, they're not panicking, but they're right there very, very concerned.
Okay.
They're 4 points below the cut line. They're starting to get a little more consistent. Last 6 races, 3 top 10 finishes. But the big thing for them that keeps them from panicking, 2 good racetracks coming up. Pocono and Watkins Glen. He finished second at Pocono, a career best in the Cup Series a year ago, and his first 2 starts in Cup at Watkins Glen, top 5 finishes.
Is this why you talk about Watkins Glen and the wild card thing earlier?
Exactly. There's a method to my madness.
But yeah, to your point, Suarez, some good tracks coming up for him in his wheelhouse. All right, up next on NASCAR Raceday, we take a look back at the wildest, wackiest, and most entertaining finishes in NASCAR history. Plus, Joey Logano will join us from a very hot New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Stick around right here on FS1. Welcome back to Race Day here on FS1. A week ago, we all witnessed one of the greatest finishes. And on top of that, between 2 brothers, as Kurt Busch held it wide open to get around his little brother Kyle for his first win of the season in very dramatic fashion, which got us thinking back to other great finishes in NASCAR history.
2 of the greatest fiddling with first place. Dale hits him. He slides. They're hitting the wall. Petty is out in front. Petty wins it. And there's a fight. The tempers overflowing. Final lap. Here they come. Irvin on the inside. As they come to the line, dead even. Give it to Earnhardt.
Unbelievable. Gordon takes a look again. Rusty comes down, slams the door. Gordon on air. Here comes Jeff Gordon to take the lead. Rusty slips. Jeff Gordon will win at Bristol, Tennessee.
Just like a year ago, he's going to get him, though. He's going to get him. Gordon got loose. It's Harvick. Harvick wins. Harvick by inches. 6/1,000ths of a second. Here he comes. He's got him this time. It's going to be a drag race. They touch. They touch. Creeman got him. Creeman got him. What a finish.
Side by side for the win in Talladega.
Into the triangle they come. The challenge on down low. Jimmy Johnson pulls out front. Jimmy Johnson will get the win.
This is going to be a drag race. Last gasp. Kyle Busch the leader.
Look at this.
Carl
Look at
Edwards
this.
right
Look at
there.
this.
Moves down to win it. Carl Edwards dump and run.
How did he pull that off?
Wow, there are a lot of great moments to choose from. But Larry, were there any that didn't make the piece? Best finish that comes to mind?
Yeah, this was a tough one. We could do a 3-hour documentary on great finishes in NASCAR and still not cover them all, but I'm going to go back roughly a year ago. It did involve Kyle Busch, but it involved another Kyle Larson. This was the final lap at Chicagoland Speedway last summer. Those 2 drivers swapped the lead 4 times on the final lap, and of course we know Kyle Busch got the win, so to me that that one went pretty close to the top of the chart.
How could you leave the low-hanging fruit out there of the 1992 All-Star race? You were there. You were a part of this race, Larry. We go down the back straightaway here, and Kyle Petty, it looks like he's going to wreck out senior, which he does. Think he's going to win the race. Next thing you know, Davey comes along and wins the race. This is one of my favorite races of all time. I was a kid going nuts.
It may have been one of your favorite races from your playpen in Cato, New York, but that was not a great finish. I destroyed a race car, and my driver was airlifted. It may be exciting, but not a great finish.
You can build another one. You're a good crew chief.
I was in the grandstands watching that whole thing.
In the chicken bone section.
Yes, I was.
All right, so you were in the grandstands, you say, but what's a finish that comes to mind for you?
I'm going to go with Watkins Glen in 2012. We saw a great race at the end. Kyle Busch is leading. He gets a little bit loose to the S's. You got Brad Keselowski and you got Marcus Ambrose. They probably swapped the lead 8 or 9 times there.
A little loose. There's a reason.
Wait a minute. Let's finish the commentary here. So Marcus Ambrose coming through the last quarter here, beats up on old Brad Keselowski, comes around for the win. I did that all in one breath, and somebody was leaking oil, and that was me. I made that race exciting.
Oh, so we can credit you with the whole thing, you know?
I did it all on purpose. No,
so there's a reason they got a little loose.
Dave Rogers is still mad at me, but no. I didn't know how much oil I was leaking.
All right, we're going to hope for a really exciting finish as well today out in Loudon. All right, up next on Race Day, there you see Joey Logano getting mic'd up. He joins us to talk about chasing the regular season championship, due in large to his incredible work in the first half of races.
The NHRA Mel Yellow Drag Racing Series kicks off the Western Swing this weekend at Vandermeer Speedway just outside of Denver. Final eliminations will be later this afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern on your local Fox affiliate. But first, coming up after NASCAR Raceday, we'll have final qualifying as we set the ladders in all 4 pro categories. It's next on FS1.
Green checker right there.
Logano wins stage 2. Stage ends.
For a playoff point to Joey Logano.
And Joey Logano has won stage 2. Logano gets the green and white checkers.
There you go, buddy.
Logano to win the stage. Joey Logano holds off Alex Bowman.
Coming to the green checkered flag.
Stage win number 7 for Joey Logano.
And Joey Logano is leading the way with 7 stage wins so far this season. Here's a look at how the stage points earned this season stack up thus far. Logano leading the way with 210 stage points, followed by Kevin Harvick, still winless with 183. Then Kyle Busch in third with 150, and followed by Brad Keselowski and Chase Elliott tied with 146. So for sure, a very nice cushion for driver 22. So Regan, how important is it to collecting these stage points for these teams?
Well, I think they're extremely important. And when you look at the end of season points, there's 15 bonus playoff points that are available to these guys if they can win that. Joey Logano and Todd Gordon sat down at the beginning of the year. They basically said, we're going to go out and get as many of these stage points as we can so we can win the regular season points and get those 15 bonus points. Even on certain weeks, they've gone out and said, you know what, we'll give up an opportunity at the win to make sure we get the stage points and make sure we score more points than our next closest competitor. It's clearly working for them right now, and that can be a big deal as we move forward this season.
Yeah, and Regan, everybody has to look at stage points nowadays. Like you said, they had a plan going into the season. Some other guys probably didn't have the plan. Now they see themselves going, we got to get more stage points. So a lot of aggression going throughout the whole field to get in the top 16, to get more stage points, to either be comfortable from that cutoff area or just to get into it. So I think every race and every stage is important to everybody.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think stage points is going to be the difference maker in who wins the regular season championship. But I also believe stage points, it's going to be the difference who makes the 16 for the playoffs. An example I'm going to give you, let's go back to Kentucky last week. Ryan Newman, top 10 finish night, 0 stage point. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. finishes 12th. He gets 4 stage points. They both lost ground to the cut line. Now, the key to getting points, stage points in that first stage is qualifying up front. If you qualify near the rear, it's almost impossible to get up there and score any points in that first stage.
Yeah, that starting position definitely important. Now, we've been talking a lot about Joey Logano, so I want to go to the racetrack now in New Hampshire and welcome Joey to the race day. Joey, thanks so much for being here.
I'm glad to be here. How's everyone doing?
We're doing good. So obviously we've been talking about you quite a bit with these stage points. Once you guys, your team got that victory in Las Vegas, were you able to change your agenda a little bit in terms of collecting those points?
You know, honestly, I don't feel like our game plan has changed much. You know, as we've been in contention to go for this regular season championship, we've kept in mind what these stage points mean throughout it to try to, like you guys said, the 15 playoff points at the end of this thing is so important. So, you know, we've been trying to grab the points that are there. There's no guarantee that you're going to get points at the end of the race. Anything can happen. So that has been the strategy for us as we've been in contention to try to lead this point system right now. So we're hardcore trying to grab every point we can. We've had fast race cars, which really helps that. You know, if you qualify up front and you race up there, the stage points just kind of come along with that. But sometimes there's a strategy call that you have to try to figure out and say, all right, do we go for the win or do we grab the points that are there right now? And, you know, racetracks like Pocono and possibly here, you know, if you have a late caution in a stage, you got to make those tough decisions. They're hard to make, but you got to live with them afterwards, and you hope you make the right one.
Joey, you mentioned those fast race cars that you've had this season. A great season for you to this point. We know you're going to be a part of the playoffs already, and I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves right here, but as you look at your competitors, outside of the 18 car, who else do you really focus on and say, hey, that's somebody that we're going to have to beat come championship time when you look at them right now?
I think it's hard to say right now. You know, I think it's obvious. You look at the 18 car, he's got a lot of speed. They've been fast all year. They've been consistent. But it looks like, you know, in the beginning of the year, it was Penske and Gibbs. Now you see the Hendrick cars getting a little quicker at certain racetracks. You see the Ganassi cars, obviously, last week with some speed in the one. I think there's still a lot of weeks coming that it's hard to say. And the reason why I think that way is we're living proof of it last year. You know, I don't think anyone looked at us at this point of the season last year as a car that can go out and win the championship. And then all of a sudden we turned it up at the right time and was able to have a good playoff run. So I think it's smart for us to keep an eye on everybody, but it's also smart for us to focus on what we're doing most and keep trying to find more and more speed in our cars.
Joey, you've won 2 races this year, and we're 7 races until the playoffs. When you look at these next 7 tracks, I guess, do you guys actually, what is your biggest weakness right now? And this is a very diverse set of tracks that's coming up over the next 7 races.
It's very diverse, and it's hard to say exactly what we need to work on. But when you think of Watkins Glen, I guess that's probably the closest to the Roval that we're going to see. You know, Pocono may be its own beast, but you know, it's still that 550 package where everyone's still trying to figure out how to race, how to compete, what is the fastest. So you know, I think we just can't let our guards down. I think that's probably the biggest thing is we just got to keep focused on what we're doing. And keep that speed in our car and be ready to raise that to that next level like we did last year when the playoffs started. You know, even though we have more playoff points, we have more of a cushion, we still need to pick up that same amount we did last year to stay competitive.
So, Joey, I got a question about today's race. You know, we've seen all year restarts are so important, and they're very crazy. I want to know, like, what do you think about today, Loudon? Where do you rank that on a scale of 1 to 10 as far as importance and how crazy you think it might be going into turn 1?
As far as importance, 10. I think it's very important. You know, just you never know how these restarts are going to go. Everyone pushes so hard. It's challenging the pass right now, so restarts are just have gone insane. And you got this PJ1 on the racetrack that's just, you know, a little bit unpredictable. You know, early in the race, the top may be the best. Who knows what happens later on in the race? So you got to be ready to evolve and kind of, you know, change as quickly as possible because, you know, we know, as is last week, you know, you can have the race won until there's a late race restart and you're in the wrong lane or teammates work together, whatever it may be, and next thing you know, you don't find yourself in contention anymore. You know, these restarts have been so crazy, you know, whether you're at the 550 racetracks or the 750 like we are this week, you know, the pushing, the aggressiveness has just escalated more and more throughout the season.
Well, Joey, we wish you the best of luck out there today. Try and stay cool. Thanks for joining us.
It's gonna be hard to stay cool. I got some ice cream behind me over here. I may stop and make a little Coke float or something before I go.
There you go. That'll be helpful. Thank you. And you can see more of Joey Logano next week on Race Hub. A great lineup for us next week. Austin Dillon will be in on Tuesday, David Reagan on Wednesday, and Cole Pern will join Joey on Thursday. Don't miss it, 6 p.m. Eastern right here on FS1. And up next, Ryan Preece is taking us back home to New Hampshire, the place he grew up and has been racing out for a long time. That is all next on Race Day. Welcome back to Race Day on FS1. There's a look at the 47 car driven by New England native Ryan Preece. While the rookie season hasn't gone perfect, heading back to the Northeast has Ryan excited for what's in store later today. Here's Ryan Preece going home.
You know, we go to some tracks where you don't have as many fans, I guess, or a lot of followers just because you're not from this area. Going up to the Northeast where I have a pretty big following just because I am from that area, it's pretty cool.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. This is a race that I've certainly had circled on my calendar just because of the modified and gaining that experience of what the PJ1's doing throughout the weekend. A lot of good comes from running that modified, just how restarts play out. I think you guys saw that last year in that Xfinity race. We were able to get the lead on restarts and unfortunately not hold on to it, but we were able to get it. Track position's so big. Utilizing that experience that you get from how the PJ1's applied and how it's wearing, doing that the day before with that modified and how they're ripping it up and where the grip is, that's gonna be a big advantage for the start of that race. A lot of fans up there. It's where I grew up in the Northeast, so a lot of people that used to see me at my weekly short tracks, they're gonna be there. Hopefully we can put on a good race for them.
And Ryan and all the drivers will be battling the heat today as they have all weekend long. A look at the forecast for today's race, 91 degrees with 47% humidity. So certainly heat will be a factor out there in Loudon today. Okay, it is time now for Hit the Gas, Pump the Brakes, everybody's favorite. So I say a statement and you guys weigh in on your thoughts. So the first one being, we will see a new season winner here today in Loudon. Larry.
Absolutely hit the gas. And the reason I say that is watching the two practices yesterday, a lot of drivers that's not found victory lane in 2019 look good short run speed and long run speed.
Yeah. Bobby,
Pump the brakes. There they are. Okay.
There's the brakes.
I think there's going to be a repeat winner. I know what you're saying, but I think there's some guys with some really good experience in New Hampshire who's going to go back and
Gotta
win.
have that experience.
Okay.
I would love to disagree with Larry on this segment because it's my favorite thing to do, but I'm hitting the gas for all the same reasons as Larry. There's some quick cars that have not won races yet this year. I think they do it today.
You mentioned some quick cars. Do we think Chevrolet will make it 4 in a row? Bobby, what say you?
Pump the brakes. The party's over. Going to stop right there.
Dang.
I just kind of think it's got to come to an end. And I have a guy in the back of my mind that's going to be victorious today, and he's not driving a Chevy.
Okay.
I'm throttling up on this one. And my reason for it, it's a little bit of a weird reason, but it hasn't happened for Chevy since 2014 that they've won 4 in a row. All streaks have to come to an end at some point. They find a way to do it today.
Yeah, pump the brakes, and I'm still trying to figure out how you're connecting those dots of something that happened 5 years ago. But I think, like Bobby,
the streak's got to end at some point.
To an end. Yes, this party is coming to an end.
No, not the winning streak.
Yeah, the driver who was partying last week was Kurt Busch. So that brings me to the next one. Kurt and Kyle Busch are the best driver-brother duo in NASCAR. Who wants to go first?
I want this one first.
Okay.
Absolutely. Kurt and his brother Kyle are the best duo in the history. Hit the gas. I am 100%.
The numbers do not lie. Hit the gas. 86 wins and still climbing, I might add, and they both are championship drivers.
He's been trying to speak.
Did y'all forget about me over here?
Oh, you do have a brother.
My brother. He's a 2-time champion in the Hall of Fame.
You're a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, Hall of Famers.
But I'm telling you, my brother's awesome, but I will have to say them Busch guys are pretty darn good.
All right.
I'm going to mash the gas on this one as well, but don't forget about me next time.
We should have said bless his heart before we said all that stuff, right? Maybe just give you a little bit of a
So we could say you're second best? Is that fair? Labanis? No?
I think he is.
Both champions, both Hall of Famers, absolutely. I'll say it. Second best.
All right, there you go. Okay, up next on Race Day, the time has come, what everyone has been waiting for. Larry the Magnificent breaks out the hat that feeds his brain. What bold prediction does he go with today? Find out after the break. That we saw they're toting a beer. Not bad, huh?
That video does not do it justice. It's outside turn 1, outside the fence. And when the race starts, there must be 500 wagons. After a few beverages and a race, I have no idea how you find where your wagon's at.
Well, it goes back to like 1990 when the first time I went there, you had to park a mile and a half away, so you had to carry a wagon.
You got to carry everything,
It's gotten better now, of course, but it's still a great tradition.
I'm just kind of curious. You like the one beer wagon. I hated it.
Well, true.
What are you doing with the one beer? I mean, come on.
You need more room for more.
I do know what I'm doing with my kid's wagon now, though. We're repurposing it.
Exactly. Not a bad idea. Okay, it is time now for our great predictor to take a shot at it once again with this week's installment of Larry Magnificent. Let's make sure the hat's on straight.
Okay, this prediction has been riding around in Jeff Hammond's saddlebag for weeks. All right, if you look at our first 19 races of 2019, we have had 9 different winners, including Justin Haley, that's not eligible for the playoffs, which means we have 6 drivers that won a total of 14 races last year that's not been to victory lane. That changes because one of those 6 drivers will go to victory lane today in Loudon, New Hampshire. Take it to the bank.
I like it. What do you guys think of this prediction?
I don't know what you said, but this hat's so crooked it was bothering me the entire time that you were talking.
No, it's not crooked. It's just so darn tight he can't get it on his head.
Just for the record, who's keeping score? I'm batting 500. I'm 1 for 1 so far
There you go.
with my predictions.
Yeah, I like this one. You're mixing it up here. What do you think?
Bold predictions, I might add.
I would say 1 for 2 technically, but hey, who's going for it?
Someone's going to be holding that lobster.
It's a good try. It's a good try, you know.
But you know what? With the heat in Loudon, New Hampshire, I cannot wait till Race Hub on Tuesday.
That's right.
Radioactive is
will be pretty
Blaney.
wild.
Those boys from Joe Gibbs Racing, are they going to stay on a roll here?
You guys like lobster? That's the big thing about New Hampshire is holding up that lobster.
Jenny Hamlin does not
He
like
does
it.
not.
I don't know that I could handle that lobster. It's just something
would
about
freak
lobster.
out.
It's gonna, your hands are going to smell on the plane the whole way home. But somebody,
What a great problem to have.
It's going to be boiled.
Well, somebody's going to be happy to have that lobster if that's the case. I'm excited to see what these drivers do. It's been a really kind of a tumultuous race weekend so far for some of these guys. A lot of crashes, a lot of stuff happening. What's that going to mean in the race? If we've seen that many mistakes in practice, what are we going to see in the race?
And speaking of mistakes, will someone that has a fast car make a mistake on pit road today and cost them that trip to victory?
We're going to find out.
What's your hat tell you? Anything?
Yeah.
More than one.
Let me get
We'll
back
find out on Race Hub if Larry Mack's prediction is correct. Thank you, guys, for Regan, Larry, Bobby. That does it for us here on Race Day. Tune in next week on Monday at 6 Eastern on FS1 for Race Hub and all your NASCAR coverage.